I now hand the conference over to Mr. Abhijit Akella from IIFL Securities Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Malika. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on the 1Q FY22 post-results conference call of Deepak Nitrite. We are delighted to host the company's senior management team who are here with us to discuss the results. I would like to hand the call over to Mr. Nishit Solanki from CDR India to take proceedings forward. Thank you, and over to you, Nishit.
Thank you, Abhijit. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Deepak Nitrite's Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. Today we have with us Mr. Maulik Mehta, Executive Director and CEO, Mr. Sanjay Upadhyay, Director Finance and CFO, and Mr. Somsekhar Nanda, Deputy CFO. We will begin the call with opening remarks from the management team, followed by an interactive question and answer session. At the outset, I would like to clarify that certain statements made or discussed on the conference call today may be forward-looking in nature, and a disclaimer to this effect has been included in the investor communication shared with you earlier. To begin, Mr. Maulik Mehta will share his views on the operating performance and the growth plans of the company, followed by Mr. Sanjay Upadhyay, who shall take us through the financial and segmental performance. The results documents have been shared with you earlier and have also been posted on the company's website and uploaded on stock exchanges. I would now invite Mr. Mehta to share his opening thoughts. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to you on Deepak Nitrite's Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. I trust you, your families and colleagues are safe and in good health in these unprecedented and very trying times. Given the second wave of COVID-19, the company maintains a high level of production at all of its facilities while complying to all regulatory mandates, rules, and safety requirements. Our employees' and communities' health and well-being are of paramount significance to us. Despite the limitations, we have ensured that all facilities are operated with utmost care for the safety of people, materials, and processes. Additionally, the company has undertaken to vaccinate all employees and spouses. Moving on, as our results documents were shared with you earlier, I hope you've had an opportunity to glance through them. I'll initiate by briefly taking you through our key financials and operational highlights for the first quarter and how we are preparing ourselves for the coming year. Mr. Upadhyay will then present to you a more detailed and comprehensive financial overview during the period in review. Following this, we'll be open for questions. Our teams have once again performed well in the midst of a challenging environment, enabling us to maintain our performance momentum from the second half of FY21 into the first quarter. In addition to the instability caused by the second wave in India, the operating environment was characterized by soaring input and energy costs, volatility in foreign exchange rates, inbound and outbound logistic limitations, as well as relatively high logistics and utility expenses. To ensure an efficient performance, your company has utilized its manufacturing competence, world-scale facilities, and agile operations. This was supported by a healthy balance sheet. I'm happy about our announcements of key investments to elevate our growth momentum moving forward. Deepak delivered resilient performance amidst the second wave. On a consolidated basis, revenues came in at 1,534 crores, up 125% year-on-year and 4% quarter-on-quarter. Improved capacity utilization aided revenue growth, as also DPL substantially improved performance, largely on account of higher realization of its products. Even though certain end-user segments are yet to recover to pre-COVID levels, Deepak Nitrite and Deepak Phenolics have proactively catered to both domestic and export markets to generate higher volumes and capitalize on favorable realizations. I should mention that we had lost a month of operations last year in the same quarter, so the audiences may please consider this. In Q1 FY22, EBITDA stood at 460 crores, higher by 144% year-on-year. The EBITDA margin increased by 200 basis points to 30%. EBITDA performance has been improved by operating leverage from revenue recovery, as well as advantages from higher realization and expense management initiatives. PBT grew by 206% year-on-year and 4% quarter-on-quarter to 405 crores, attributable in a good part to an outstanding performance by the Phenolics business. Besides DPL's performance, PBT improved as a consequence of increased net revenue and reduced interest rates as a result of significant debt reduction over the previous year. During the quarter, profit after tax came in at 303 crores, higher by 206% year-on-year and 4% quarter-on-quarter as a result of improved operational and financial efficiencies, supported by higher revenues. Even though the market is still recovering from the effects of the second wave, the company was able to record an improvement in PAT due to an improvement in performance across all the segments. Now on to segmental performance. Revenues in basic chemicals increased by 70% to 249 crores in the first quarter. This is keeping in mind that there is certainly an impact in the MSME sector, which is a large customer base for the basic chemicals products. This is thanks to the resurgent second wave and various logistical challenges. A resilient performance was exhibited during this quarter. Gradual rise in input commodities have helped to reap better realizations during the quarter. However, future margin will depend on the pace of demand recovery. Revenues in fine and specialty chemicals increased by 48% to 207 crores in quarter one. Volumes have been affected this quarter due to disruptions in export-bound logistics. Furthermore, increased commodity costs have certainly had an influence on profitability. Meanwhile, revenues in performance products segment increased by 55% to 93 crores in quarter one. The performance product segment has seen only partial recovery in volumes since key end user industries have yet to fully rebound to pre-COVID levels. That said, DASDA, which is a key raw material for the segment, has seen its prices and volumes return to what we consider is a normalized situation. Deepak Phenolics delivered a remarkable quarter, with revenues soaring by 202% to just shy of 1,000 crores in quarter one. Despite limited personnel and material transportation during the peak of the wave, the facility continued to operate at a high utilization, with quarterly average utilization at or above 110%. While EBITDA grew by 263% year-on-year to 313 crore in quarter one, the EBITDA margin improved to 31%. The company has been able to leverage favorable price trends and demand for both phenol and acetone in the quarter. Without doubt, our business model has been put to test by the ongoing global pandemic. But increased capacity from brownfield expansions, sustained robust demand from end user industries, we believe will help drive growth through all of the strategic business divisions. In key developments, I'm glad to share with you that we're nearing completion of our land development in Dahej 2. Investments of 300 crores for new products in life sciences have been undertaken at this site. While Deepak Phenolics is in the process of expanding its IPA facility and continuing to improve its utility capabilities, the company is planning to invest another 700 crores to add new solvents, which are downstream of phenol and acetone. These solvents, which are primarily used in applications like life sciences, paints, and coatings, are seeing a healthy demand CAGR within the country and in target export markets. The company aims to be a world-class supplier of solvents which are well integrated with its wide product basket and process competencies. During the quarter, Dun & Bradstreet recognized our company as a winner in the best growth performance of chemicals division. Deepak Nitrite has also been ranked number 2 on Fortune India's list of wealth creators. We're confident that the company is well equipped to assess emerging growth opportunities in end user segments while expanding in the value chain and nimble-footedness to adapt to an evolving market. All of these will contribute to its long-term success. In conclusion, I'd like to emphasize that DNL is well positioned for expansion in a range of aspects. Apart from a noticeable change in the chemical supply chain from other countries to India, Deepak has the ability to take advantage of the opportunity and accelerate in the near to medium term. Deepak is an excellent candidate to lead the India chemical manufacturing trend, thanks to its unique product mix and decades of manufacturing experience. This, along with contributions from ongoing brownfield expansions and major greenfield projects containing value-added forward integrations, will improve our competitiveness and position us to grow market share, generating value for all stakeholders. Thank you, and I would now like to hand the call over to our CFO, Mr. Sanjay Upadhyay, to address this forum and briefly take you through the financial performance of the period in review.
Thank you, Maulik. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Deepak Nitrite's earnings call. I will walk you through the highlights of the financial results for the quarter ended June 30, 2021. In Q1 FY22, DNL has performed impressively in a challenging quarter.
Hello, sir. Your voice is not audible. Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So in Q1 FY22, Deepak Nitrite has performed impressively in a challenging quarter, given the disruptions induced by a second wave in India during April and May 2021. Escalating expenditures and persistent volatility in foreign exchange rates define the operational environment. On a consolidated basis, revenues grew by 125% to 1,534 crores during the quarter under review. The revenue performance has been attributable to the normalization of standalone operations, particularly in bulk chemical and finance specialty segments, supported by DPL's significantly enhanced performance by running its facility at its high utilization levels, allowing it to take advantage of favorable demand and competitive pricing for its products. EBITDA reported at 460 crores, higher by 144%. Despite the cost pressures and logistical challenges, the margin performance has been commendable, with the company reporting EBITDA margin of 30% during the quarter. PBT and PAT expanded by 206% to 405 crores and 303 crores respectively. As Maulik mentioned earlier, growth rates are to be reviewed in backdrop of lower base of last year caused by nationwide lockdown and related restrictions. Now moving to our segmental performance. Impact on MSME sector owing to rising case loads and logistical issues, performance was resilient during the quarter. EBIT increased by 134% to 85 crores with an EBIT margin of 34% in bulk and chemical segment. Finance specialty chemical segment revenue grew by 48% to 207 crores in Q1 FY22 as compared to 140 crores in Q1 FY21. EBIT improved by 9% to 67 crores with EBIT margin of 33%. Challenges in export logistics as well as a significant increase in commodity input costs have had an influence on finance specialty segments revenue performance. Product demand, on the other hand, continues to be strong. Performance segment reported revenue growth of 55% to 93 crores during the quarter under review versus 60 crores in Q1 FY21. DASDA prices gradually started returning to normal and volumes are improving. Deepak Phenolics reported solid performance with revenues expanding by 202% to 999 crores, one short of 1,000 in Q1 FY22. EBITDA soared by 263% year-on-year to 313 crores in Q1 FY22. The EBITDA margin stood at 31% Q1 FY22. Robust demand and high plant utilization with a quarterly average of 110% utilization, helped revenue realization of both phenol and acetone increase over year-on-year. The company has been able to take advantage of favorable demand patterns and competitive pricing for both phenol and acetone. Lastly, on balance sheet front, company's financial position has significantly enhanced and been leveraged to gradually reduce debt. On a standalone basis, Deepak Nitrite is debt-free, surpluses of 270 crores in cash and bank balances and investments. While on consolidated basis, the net debt to equity ratio is 0.07, down from 0.43% in the first quarter of FY21. With that, I would now request moderator to open the forum for question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We would like to remind participants that you may press star 1 to ask a question. The first question is from the line of Neera Jimodia from Annual Research. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon to the entire team of Deepak Nitrite. So I have two set of questions. So first is, if I see your annual report of last 10-11 years on a standalone basis, we have almost invested on around 100 crores on the R&D. And if I see from 2016 to 2021, bearing 2019-20 excluding the DASDA benefit, our EBITDA has gone up from roughly 160 crores to 540 crores on a standalone basis in 2021. So, sir, is it fair to assume that majority part of this R&D expenditure of 100 crores in the initial years of this decade was more towards process innovation, the benefit of which we started feeling now in the numbers, and the benefit of product innovation in terms of launching new products would be subsequently felt from 2021 onwards? So, yeah, this is question number one. And a related question would be, how do you see the next decade of R&D expenditure at Deepak? Probably we are at 40-42 products at this point of time. So the next 10 years of R&D expenditure would be skewed more towards product innovation than in process innovation, because what normally you guide in most of the interactions is that process before product. So can it be reversed for next 10 years, that now process innovation is mostly being achieved and next decade would be more towards product innovation?
Neeraj, I slightly disagree with you.
Okay.
It was never process versus products. It was always both together.
Okay.
The products were also there. In fact, we have introduced quite a few products in last 7-8 years, 10 years.
Okay.
In various and particularly in finance specialty segment. So it's not like that. We have a separate team of people for product development as well as process development. And both are running. I mean, it's not one versus other.
Okay.
But yes, your EBITDA margins and whatever you said, we are setting up a premium R&D facility now. Up till now, it was in our premises. Now it's a separate building. It will be coming up, which will be a high-tech, latest. So focus would be on both. But yes, we have today ability to go ahead and spend more and more on R&D, and our products you can certainly expect quite a few products in coming years. No doubt on that.
Okay. So can the product in terms of number of products, can it get doubled from here in terms of either doing backward integration? Because with every backward integration comes also savings in freight cost and etc. Because we have within the same complexes itself our raw material. So so if you can guide in terms of how many new products can we expect over next decade, or let's say even a period of 5 years would be helpful.
Actually, I'd like to answer this question.
Yeah.
I would be wary about talking about number of products because, frankly speaking, number of products is not a helpful guide. If you look at Deepak Phenolics, they added 2 products, but it significantly changed the economic landscape for the company.
Correct.
So instead of that, I would say that our goal is to be able to add a basket of very high quality products which are fitting within our quote-unquote right to win template, which I have alluded to before. One thing that I can mention, and I know this has been a point of chagrin for a lot of investors, where we are shy about mentioning the names of the products that we are getting into, and it is not because there is some sort of a veil here or something like that. But what I can very simply say is that our effort over the last 2 years and our effort moving forward is to invest in platforms. Now that platform in jigsaw puzzles with other platforms that we already have good competency in results in a very large number of good opportunities for us. In many cases, these are with customers who already have a good key account relationship with Deepak. So it further enhances our right to win. And this is how we foresee the near-term future. When we invest into a new product, it will be keeping in mind the platform competencies that we have been building. Along with that, the kind of relationship and the right to win that we have in the short, medium, and long term. So we have never shied away from saying that we would not look at making investments which are fly-by-night, where there is an opportunity in the short term, but long term we don't know. So we stay away from such opportunities and focus on ones where we believe that for the next 10 years, 15 years, there is a very good reason that Deepak should be number 1, 2, or 3 in the world in those products. This is what we will continue, and as Mr. Upadhyay has mentioned, we do have 2 separate pillars. One is process intensification and one is product development. Process intensification is taking existing products and improving the process to unlock value. And product development is where we use existing processes to develop new products.
Okay. And sir, my second question would be in terms of talent pool, like we have seen recruitments by almost all major chemical companies, including ours also. So how we at Deepak is being able to retain the key management team or the key personnel within the company, as well as strengthening the leadership team by recruiting new people. And if I can ask a related question to this would be how most of the time of Mr. Maulik Mehta like you is spent on either most of the time is spent on looking after expansion or looking after the existing business, or like interacting with the core teams across the business verticals, or like the mentoring new teams. If you can give your order of preference in terms of these 4 parameters would be helpful, sir.
See, I'm only 38 years old, and I don't come with the decades of experience that a lot of our management has. So for me, every single opportunity is an opportunity to learn. If you ask me where I spend the majority of my time, I can tell you that I spend the majority of my time just seeing what I can do to help the rest of the management achieve the goals that we have collaboratively set about together. So frankly speaking, my entire day goes in seeing what I can do to help the goals that have already been set or are in the process of being set, what I can do to remove potential impediments. Now in terms of the talent aspect, what we find is that talent where the values of the individual are in line with the values of the company, and talent which finds that there is a good opportunity for professional growth within the company, and also talent that believes that at the end of the day, the company itself is growing, is talent that is likely to stick around.
Okay.
We have our internal processes where we look at enhancing the value both on a personal and on a professional level that our best talent is able to drive. Whether it is L&D opportunities, whether it is courses in connection with various premier institutes both in India and outside of India, and whether it is opportunities to develop good, well-functioning cross-functional teams. The goal here is to enhance the environment for productivity. When that happens, the organization is growing, the person has a chance to grow professionally. I think it's a good recipe to retain good talent. And as the word spreads, it's also a good opportunity to attract new talent. We've already started with the disadvantage of being located in a place which is far away from the metropolis cities. So we have to see what we can do to ensure that working here is a pleasure, not a pain.
Correct. Thanks for answering the questions in detail. And lastly, I would like to congratulate the team again for providing the encyclopedia of information in the annual reports. Best of luck and good luck for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saurabh from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my first question is on the new expansion on the downstream product. Can you provide more color in terms of capacity what we are looking to add under this project, and also the timeline in terms of commencement of the project?
On the capacity front, instead of giving a direct number, because if you look at phenolics, we could have told you that the capacity is 2 lakh tons, which we did, but we realized that that's not the right number. The capacity is what you make out of it. But what I can say is that the products that we are investing in certainly have an import substitute element. And what we believe internally is step 1 is Atmanirbhar Bharat, but step 2 is make in India for the world. So if we really want to have the right mix of market access and of cost optimization, we have to focus on world-class capacities. So the solvents that we are looking into manufacturing, which are downstream of phenol and acetone, will have world-class capacities, but with a clear preference on import substitution.
And timeline for commencement?
Yeah, sorry about that. So the timeline would be, I think, about 20 to 26 months.
Okay. So are we also going to add phenol and acetone capacity along with the downstream product?
So this is something that I've had the pleasure of answering in past con calls. As a company, we have been very good at going downstream and at the same time maintaining the market share. Now, phenol consumption in India has a good, healthy demand CAGR. And also, most of the downstreams of phenol and acetone are actually imported. So that gives this double opportunity. Now, it's only so in short, we will be doing both. It's only a question of what we do first and what we do second. Right now, the immediate priority is to ensure that we have downstream products which are good import substitute and good value drivers. And at the right time, hopefully in the near future, we will also be looking at ensuring that we retain our market share in a growing demand situation.
Actually, I just add on to this. We are moving towards, we had said earlier that we want to captively consume both acetone and phenol around 30-35% in-house. So this is the step towards that. And once these capacities are commissioned, new facilities, we will be doing that. So both phenol and acetone downstreams are ready with captive consumption of 30-35%.
Okay. So my second question is on fine and specialty chemicals. So over the past 2 quarters, we have seen some pressure on the margin because of the higher commodity price. So what is the outlook in terms of the margin going ahead?
So the thing is that margins have to be looked at in a range. They're never very specific because there's a basket of products. Thank you also for pointing out about the raw material price increases, which of course have been a factor. So has the reality that logistics have certainly spiraled out of control in the last couple of months. Now, this will of course also have an impact. What's important, let me emphasize, is that our products are preferred by our customers. So in most cases we are L1. In a few rare occasions we are L2, but that might also be because of our inability to go beyond a particular volume. That said, the margins, at least in Q1, have been slightly under pressure, simply because a lot of our higher margin products are actually export bound, and there were a lot of export disruptions where ship berthing was not available, where you had the Suez Canal issue, where in some cases, in most of the cases, orders are in hand. The job is to get the product to the customer at the right time. So in all of these situations, what has happened is that Q1 numbers look slightly deflated because many of these are products that we targeted towards the Indian marquee customers. Now, moving forward, once this the situation with ship availability, I'm not even concerned about cost of shipping, but ship availability, once this normalizes, we will continue to see a healthy balance between export volumes and domestic key accounts. And at that time, you will see at least some improvement in terms of the EBITDA. But it is true that this should always be considered in a range-bound fashion.
Sorry, I will just add one more point here. Maulik rightly mentioned about the availability of ships and containers. So you must have read, and which is the fact that sea freights have gone up significantly. So it helps us in some segments, particularly in bulk, but it affects where you like in finance specialty, where we have a slightly longer term contract and the terms are of CIF, and where we are bearing the freight. So there would be an impact to the extent we have signed a contract for, and by the time we negotiate and arrive at a fresh realization price. So that shipping lines issue still remains for particularly in export businesses.
Yeah, actually, thank you for bringing this question up. It allows me to talk about one of the 2 or 3 points that I had handwritten. But let me mention that when you're talking about phenolics and when you're talking about basic chemicals, the best situation is when you have a stable demand situation and volatile logistics, right? Because at that time the customers give you a greater premium because you are local, you are dependable, you are easy access for the customer. In finance specialties, the only thing that we have to look at is logistic movement from India to that country worse off than logistic movement from some other country to the target customer? If it is as bad or if it is better, then we are in a good place. But if it is worse, then the customer is highly dependent on those particular products. And if that is a challenge in getting the material, so for example, it's so difficult to find ship berthing to places like Canada or South America, that even if the orders are there, even in places like Europe, even if the orders are there, delivery being delayed by a month, 2 months, etc., can really push a customer's production schedules off track. So we are exploring various options like vendor managed inventories and other things. Hopefully the situation will normalize in the future. But this is just to give you an insight into what each of our business units, what kind of environment they prefer.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on, again, a very good set of numbers, plus the new announcement of CAPEX. So the first question is in terms of the newer opportunities. So we've been growing organically over a period of time, and given that the debt levels have been very, very low now, and the cash flows have been coming in, we have earmarked another 1,000 crores of CAPEX for the next couple of years. Beyond this, do we aspire to go in for any inorganic initiatives, maybe domestically or outside India, to garner some new technology or some new product streams which will be complementing our business? Thank you.
So this is always there. It's like same product and process. There is no, of course we are growing and we have announced capacity, but if there is a good opportunity to grow inorganically, no doubt we'll certainly grab that. There is no question. But it has to be variation has to meet and fit our requirement. Otherwise you acquire and then don't make money out of that for next 4, 5, 6 years. Doesn't make any sense. So, but yes, we are open to that. No doubt on that.
Right. So the second question is on the basic chemicals front. So predominantly it's nitric acid and derivatives. The margins have gone up significantly, and there is slight anomaly that we have been gaining market share from the smaller players. At the same time, there is an impact on the smaller players, as you have said that MSME segment has been under pressure during the quarter. So how does the performance is so strong during the quarter, and is it in a transitionary phase that maybe couple of quarters down the line things will start normalizing and probably the margins will come back to more normal levels of maybe say 20% plus minus? Thank you.
So, first of all, when you said nitric acid, immediately I thought you might be referring, maybe I should connect you to Deepak Fertilizers, because they are one of the largest nitric acid manufacturers. We are consumers, but if I look at products manufactured from nitric acid and other petrochemicals and these things, it is true that we do have actually in this business. So in the nitrites business, there's a lot of dependency on MSME, but in the what we call the nitro business, it's actually a good mix. So there is also the large players, world players, and there's also the small niche players. But that said, in terms of the margins, what I can say is what I mentioned in the earlier question. As long as the demand, is stable or at an uptrend, it's good business for us, and it's better business for us if export logistics are a challenge, because that way the customers will prefer to give a premium to a domestic supplier. However, the nitro business has definitely had some tailwind because of disruptions in China, and because of a reluctance from a lot of European companies and countries to engage in expansion of nitration, which if not handled properly can be a dangerous chemistry. So this is a key competency that we have. This is a key competency that we are investing into. There will of course be some amount of brownfield, but you will also see greenfield. So I can safely say that nitration and nitro products, the margins are directly proportionate to the kind of growth that we are expecting from the consumption. And Deepak will continue to remain, maybe even improve its world market share.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Riddhi from Riddhan Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Good evening to the team. So my question is, as per your knowledge, are there new incremental capacities coming up across the globe for phenol and acetone? And how are the current prices for phenol and acetone trending?
Capacities, of course, people announce every now and then. I don't want to comment on that because there's a big gap between announcing and then actually going out and implementing. Okay, and in any case, if new capacity comes, it will be 3 to 4 years away from today. So the way demand is growing, there is absolutely no issues on phenol today. I don't want to comment on prices because prices keeps on fluctuating. We have said in our comment that yes, realizations are better in Q1 and continues to remain improved on phenol. Acetone, of course, up and down, but then we have IPA also consuming acetone. So, that is how we want to play the game, between IPA and acetone. And similarly, when we have phenol downstream ready, again it will be the same case. So, no point in telling you the price because there is no pricing point as today. Today, if I say it is 1 lakh, tomorrow it will be 110,000, day after it will be 90,000. So, it doesn't make too much of sense in giving the numbers.
Sure, sir. Thank you for that. And my other question is, what is the capacity utilization for fine and specialty blocks?
Financial, we run our capacity around 90-95% on an average.
Okay. Sure, sir. Thank you so much and all the best for the road ahead.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rikin Shah from Omkara Capital. Please go ahead.
Congratulations on a fantastic set of numbers. I just wanted to understand the new capacity addition that we're doing in the solvent and downstream space. What kind of competitive landscape is there in those spaces?
So as we mentioned, these are import substitutes. So yes, there are capacities world over, no doubt about it. But the demand for these products is growing, and it is growing, at a very high CAGR. In fact, it is in the life sciences and paints and coating end segments that we are finding the highest utilization for these solvents and also the highest demand CAGR. So this is something that we believe is going to be a continuing trend in India.
So like domestically, we would be number one in this space?
Yes, yes.
आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर.
For market perspective, yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashmita, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Thanks for giving me opportunity. My question is regarding Deepak Cleantech. So I just wanted to know, as already mentioned, that phenol will be getting used around 30 to 35% in-house, and that will be used for the product portfolio which are coming from Cleantech, right? Deepak Cleantech.
No. Products that Deepak Phenolics is going downstream into are downstreams of phenol and acetone. So the raw materials for these products are being manufactured already today. And I think sometimes I feel like we should change the name of Deepak Cleantech to just saying Deepak Chemicals or Deepak Other Chemicals or something like this. Because it's making a lot of people feel that there's only a particular small basket of products that will be made here. Maybe some detergent chemicals or some cleaning chemicals, things like this. That's not the name. It just happens to be a name. Don't put that much into the name. I will just say that the products that will come into this business are ones that have a very tight synergy between Deepak Nitrite's competencies, Deepak Phenolics competencies, so that in the future, nobody has to bother with asking, should this product come in Deepak Nitrite or Deepak Phenolics? It happens to come in a separate segment called Deepak Cleantech.
Okay, thank you, sir. And one more question. Just wanted to know, Deepak Cleantech will be having a product portfolio. So, on a projection basis, what type of revenue and margin we can see once capacity is coming online? And also, I wanted to know, is there any plan for additional borrowing for expansion that are already in pipeline?
We have not even finished announcing our capital investment plans yet. We've only announced 2 tranches of capital investment. You are already asking us about revenue. You don't want us to announce more investment plans? And with regards to the question about debt, see, we have a very experienced finance team. So we are very comfortable taking debt also. We have absolutely no problems with that. We have a very strong, liquidity basis also. So we are happy to look at that. So it opens up a lot of opportunities for us, and we will take a very judicious call. But in fact, Mr. Sanjay Upadhyay has told us many times that, look, he is very tired of people asking him about zero debt. He is not interested in being a zero debt company. And therefore, moving forward, we will ensure that we have a healthy mix of both.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ram Krishan from Equity Intelligence. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, sir, and congratulations for the best set of numbers. Sir, I was just looking at your quarterly numbers, especially on Deepak Phenol. See, Q3 FY20, so we were doing around 535 crores turnover, and we had a 40 crores segmental profit of around 8% margin. Then gradually it went up to 12%, 21%, 22%, 23%. Now we are at somewhere between 30-31% EBITDA segmental margin on the phenols and acetal. So to what percentage? Yeah, we have a huge capacity. So is it the COVID? What is the demand pickup, and our capacity utilization also gone up to 110%. So what has driven this? It's a demand driven pickup. Can you give me some little bit elaboration on that?
See this. Yes, your observation is right. But if you see the Q4 numbers, Q4 also, in terms of profit and things, we have done well in Q4 also, right? These numbers are on turnover side, yes, because it is, in Maulik was mentioning, if there are issues on the logistics and base, and the bulk chemicals tends to gain. Demand is already there in the phenol business. So, and we are running at 110-115% capacity at times, So, this is a mix of higher volumes as well as better realization. And realizations are really, really better in the last quarter, in Q1. So, this is a result of that.
So, what is the trend like? Is it the demand? Because price trend nobody can predict, but the demand trend, what do you see? Is it COVID related? What percentage is COVID related, and otherwise normal?
No, it has nothing to do with COVID. First of all, right?
Okay.
See, it's on supply. We are facing our problems in shipment. Parallelly, other countries are also facing problems in shipment. So the local players tend to gain. So demand is certainly there, and we are able to supply because we are the only large player here. So that's the main reason. So it is nothing with COVID. But yes, the shipping industry is, I don't know, I don't want to use that word, but yes, shipping industry is becoming a major bottleneck today. So the supplies across is becoming an issue.
So it is basically import substitution. And are we a net import substitution?
But
phenol is entirely, largely import substitute.
Last year we had some challenging months where the domestic demand, the consumption was much less. Now, as a company, we didn't have that sort of money where we could put up any sort of a capacity, any sort of storage and all that. So we had limitations everywhere.
Okay.
And therefore, there were periods of time last year where we had to export our volumes, right? So it is not like there has been only a consistent growth in terms of demand. That is the trend, no doubt about it. But things like COVID play spoilsport, especially to industries which are linked to infrastructure, housing, these things. That keeping in mind the margins, I would give a high degree of credit to the operating team, because such kinds of products and processes, a significant chunk of the margin actually comes from operating them at a high degree of productivity, which the teams have done, either because of their process competency or because of the theory of constraints, because there was no other choice.
So the demand, the import substitution continues. So you should see the going forward also good kind of a demand for both phenols and acetones.
Yeah. When we envisaged the project with 2 lakh tons, we expected to be about 65% of the Indian consumption story, which we expected it to grow also at 6-7% CAGR. When we finally came into production, and today, if I look at it, with significantly more than 2 lakh tons, I won't go into the exact number, significantly more, we are now at 55% of the domestic consumption. So that is how the market size has actually increased. Having a domestic supplier encourages a lot of other companies also to think about making investments. That has happened, and we believe that this is a moving trend in this direction. So we don't expect, in a normalized environment, if you keep COVID and all this aside, we expect demand for products like phenol, acetone, and even many of the downstreams of phenol and acetone to have a good, healthy demand and base and demand CAGR in India.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhruv from HDFC Asset Management Company. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, can you guide for the capex for FY22? The capex number?
So at the moment, we have announced 300 crores from Deepak Nitrite in new products and 700 crores in Deepak Phenolics for also new products which are downstreams of its current product basket. We will announce more as and when we find that it is the right opportunity. And this does not take into account the brownfield expansions that we do of existing products. And phenol and, IPA and utility cost enhancement projects which are ongoing in Deepak Phenolics, we are looking forward to seeing value come out of them, revenue and value come out of them in from around the third quarter onwards.
So last year we had announced certain projects which we are completing in the towards second quarter and or third quarter on phenolics, whereas some debottlenecking and expansions in existing capacities in DNL is also in the pipeline. So this all told, last year this phenol capex was around 250 crores and Deepak Nitrite was 100 crores, which you will see the results in Q3, maybe towards the end of Q3 onwards.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I was looking for an absolute capex number because these projects...
Sir, I would request you to rejoin the queue, sir.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohan Gupta from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir, good evening and thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on such a solid set of numbers. Sir, only one question from my side. Sir, your company is a cash machine and now with the current commodity prices benefiting, your cash flows are constantly ringing. Though you have already announced almost 1,000 crore rupees capex for the current year. Sir, I just wanted to understand that did the management have a bandwidth and a thought process over next 2 to 3 years, a capex plan or the entire cash flows and already there is opportunity to top up on debt. Can we look at, sir, your company getting into mode of where we can see cumulative capex of next 3 to 4 years of 3,000 to 4,000 crores? I just looking from the management thought process, what is on that, sir?
Of course, why not? We can certainly, today we have such a strong balance sheet and strong cash flows coming in. So if we feel there is a good project, a great project, somebody just said about the acquisition and this, so we can certainly, we have that horizon, and we have that benefit also to look at that. No doubt on that.
I would also like to add one point, that one thing that the company has done very well over the last several decades is that it has approached things with a frugal mindset, right? So having good cash generation allows us to invest in winning projects. We're not going to invest just for the hell of it. It has to pass our very stringent right to win criteria. So therefore, the projects that you will see will be projects where there is a very high degree of certainty that it is going to improve the financial performance of the company, and there's a high degree of confidence that Deepak is the best company to make these investments. So we will not be making investments without care and concern because today cash flows are good and tomorrow they may not be. No, that's not how it works.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Tejas Sheth from Nippon India Asset Management Company. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. Two questions. One on the R&D side, the new center which you are investing in. If you can just give some magnitude towards it, what would be the size of the investment, what kind of chemistry we're looking there, and how many R&D personnel we're looking to hire there?
See, the size of the investment, frankly, what is the point of talking about things like civil structure and buildings and all that? We have made good capital equipment investments in the last 2 years. We will be increasing that somewhat, but in any case, the focus, as I mentioned earlier, is on platform. So we have identified some key platforms. Two of them which we have already announced, which will work in synergy with our other competencies. So I think right now we have about 70 or 80 employees in the R&D center, and we will gradually look at improving that as and where we see fit. What is important is ensuring that the right kind of value comes out of that. So R&D is one of those areas where the right question is not how much we are spending into it or how many people we are employing in it. If nothing of significant value comes out of it, our first job is to ensure that the pipeline of new products that we are releasing are really high quality, high caliber value drivers. And as we ourselves find our own confidence improving, we will ensure that we supplement the capital investment and people investment with the right additional resources.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish from Northridge, India. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Is my voice audible?
Not very well.
Not audible, sir.
Now is it audible properly?
Yes, it's much better.
Okay, yeah. Firstly, I want to say thank you to the team of Deepak Nitrite. I am invested since last 5 years, means 2017 December I invested, and this is the first con call which I am attending. So I have seen the days when we were having 7 rupee EPS and today we are clocking 55 rupee EPS minimum. So thank you so much for the efforts and great value creation for the shareholders.
Thank you for believing in us.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I am having just one query regarding the fluorochem business which we are going to start. So I just want to know the revenue which the company can generate from this particular project, and follow-up question on that where we see the revenue of Deepak Nitrite maybe till 2025. Today we are at approximately 6,000 crores as minimum. So just want to know vision where we are heading for 2025.
See, in terms of fluorochemicals, would you like?
See, the fluorochemical numbers, I can give you that in any project, as Maulik was just mentioning, that we have a benchmark, the asset to turnover ratio should be 2:1 and payback not more than 4 years. So you can calculate based on this, whatever announcements we have made so far, unless it's a captive consumption or power CPP, Otherwise, this is the normal ratios within which we operate. As regards your second question, where do we see Deepak Nitrite from today? The kind of announcements and kind of projects we are making and our balance sheet today, I can say we are very, very confident. There was a time when our MD had said that I want to reach, maybe 4 years back, $1 billion turnover. And at that time, nobody believed. But today we are more or less, of course, the dollar was then at that time 59 rupees. Today it has gone up to 74. That's a different thing. But we have actually proved ourselves that yes, we can do it. So, and again, since you have invested in 2017, if I have said 5 years back that you will see completely different Deepak Nitrite after 5 years, and only long-term investors should invest in that, because that is what we had in mind then when we were actually announcing the federal project. Today I can tell you once again that yes, we will see a completely different Deepak Nitrite in 5 years time from today. The kind of efforts we are making, the kind of investments we are making, the kind of team we are creating, it's a very, very focused approach. Chemical industries are giving us a lot of opportunities, let me tell you. A good R&D team, a good management team, and a strong balance sheet. I mean, we have got everything which enables a company to grow, and we will certainly see the results. Believe in us, have trust, faith on us.
Yeah, I'll just add one point to what Mr. Upadhyay said, that as a company, the kind of values that we espouse are also values that our customers appreciate very highly. So that makes us ideal partners for growth. So you can, hopefully when we have this conversation after 3 or 4 years, when you tell us that you've been invested in it for the last 10 years, I think we will have a similar kind of story, but at different numbers.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhruv from HDFC Asset Management Company. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir, if I get some chance. Sir, what I was earlier looking was the capex number. So I understand you have announced a few projects and that will continue. I was looking for the capex spend that you're targeting in FY22, just for my financial purposes. And also a second related question was, because they will probably push me out, is this 350 crores capex that we have, what is the timeline for that that you announced? As you mentioned for 700 crores, if you can give it also for the 350 crores, when it could be executed, and if you're comfortable, what are the products that you are targeting in this?
See, the capex, any capex has 2 years time, so you can, that's what we have said from the date of commencement. And cash flow wise, if you are asking me, then this year it will be in the range of say 300 to 400 crores. Okay, cash flow, because not everything is paid in upfront. So that is the cash flow point, part of it. Otherwise, the announcements what we have already made. I believe this is what you are asking me.
The 350 crores capex will about 2 years. That would be a right assumption.
Yeah.
Sorry, 350 crores of cash flow, not capex.
These are two different questions. One is cash flow and second is capex, how long it takes.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Raheja from Julius Baer. Please go ahead.
Hi, Maulik and team. Congratulations, guys. You have done an incredible job in the last 2-3 years, which has been a real difficult time. One of the very key things we've noticed is that the entire product portfolio, the way it has been built, has seen over the last 3 years great sustainability, where at the point of time when one business does not do well, the other one actually picks up the slack, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. In that sense, we've really seen how value creation has happened. Just wanted a few thoughts in terms of, when one looks at the company in the next few years going ahead, how do you see yourself sort of evolving from here on? after this incredible last 3-year journey?
See, there are certain things that we have done which have helped us. We look at new opportunities from an integrated perspective. We target products where we have a high degree of confidence in succeeding in, and we take a calibrated approach towards investment in both existing products and the new products. And in all of this, what we see over the next few years, one, as our chairman already mentioned, we see ourselves also adding a significant investment and a position in the solvents space. Other than that, we see a significant increase in the investments that we will make that cater to the life sciences segment. And the third is that products which target the dyes and pigment segments, and these, what we will ensure that we do is that we have a growing market share in a much faster growing demand CAGR. So this is what we see as a company over the next few years. But if you look at culture of the company, what we are doing is we're working very hard towards what we call our Depend on Deepak initiatives, where we try to map out, and we are very honest with ourselves about where we stand on three major stakeholders. One is the employee, two is the customer, and three is the investor. And we try to understand what it is that is getting us to where we are and what we need to do to enhance their dependability on us, whether it is in terms of performance, in delivery, in values, in mutual growth, all of these things. So we have internal benchmarks set for us of what we want to be as a company for our employees, for our customers, for our investors over the next 3 to 4 years. We've taken a target of 4 years. In the past, in financial performance, we were able to finish our 4-year target in 3 years. Hopefully, we'll be able to do the same thing with Depend on Deepak. But we are going to continue to remain a science-driven company. The investments that we make in R&D, the investments that we make in process intensification technology, and the investments that we make into ESG, that will continue to drive our outward-looking growth. Internally, we have a lot of work to do to be the kind of employer that we dream of being. A lot of companies out there in this space which are phenomenal companies, and we're happy that we are one amongst a very esteemed group of them. Our goal is, over a period of time, to be the most sought-after chemical company to work with. We're not there, and we're very aware of that, but we are targeting to be there over the next few years.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shalu from Invest Research. Please go ahead. The next question is from the line of Shalu from Invest Research. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is regarding what are the margins range we are expecting for the next year, next 2-3 years. Hello.
Yeah, you are talking about company as a whole, segment-wise?
Segment-wise, sir.
Every year we improve on our margins, of course. As Maulik was explaining in the first question itself, that you take a range which we have been giving. I had said in finance specialty 37 to 42. I will still stick to that. No doubt in finance facility, because there could be 1 or 2 hiccups here and there because of some logistical issues, but otherwise that is the range. And in bulk chemical, it would be in the range of 30 to 34%, and performance segment in the range of 15 to 20%. Though one quarter could be here and there, but that is the range. Phenol, of course, you can't expect this kind of EBITDA margins every quarter, so that I cannot commit on that. But otherwise, this is the range you can consider.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ravi Mehta from Deep Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Just a small clarification. The segmental margins you shared range, these are EBIT margins or EBITDA margins?
EBITDA margins.
This is EBITDA margin.
Okay. And one more question was, I'm sorry if it's repetitive, the 300 crore capex for the new products in Deepak Nitrite, this would be commissioned in what time frame?
So that's what we said, it takes minimum 18 to 24 months.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think that's what we should target. Keep in mind we've announced the projects a couple of months ago. Let's keep the target of timeline in mind.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Gupta from Edelweiss Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi sir, thanks for the opportunity and congratulations for a good set of results. My question pertains, like you have mentioned in your opening remarks, that our company is primarily looking for China plus one kind of a strategy going ahead. So are we in talks, like we are present across farm and agrochemical space, so like are we looking out for any opportunity in the CRAMS space as such?
Opportunity in?
Like in terms of intermediate development, like for any particular global innovator?
See, what we do is, when you're talking about CRAMS, what I can tell you is that we are, discussing with, a couple of opportunities where we're talking about a long-term partnership. But when it comes to CRAMS, what you're basically saying is that I will create the house. You come and tell me which room you want to occupy. So it is almost like a hotel in that sense that it is you are basically a toll manufacturer, but CRAMS sounds like a more attractive word than toll manufacturing, and there are very, very good companies in that space. Deepak today, we're open to that, but today what I can tell you is that we are engaging with certain potential customers for long-term arrangement. CRAMS we will see, but it is not in our immediate horizon.
But sir, in terms of our process capabilities, so like we are going into niche chemistry, so is that a targeted area going ahead, like for a vision of next to 3 to 4 years from now?
We have actually a very large number of products that we will be looking at making in the facilities that we are adding. So it is not, it's not like the Deepak Nitrite of old where one plant only focused on making one product. We've learned at a very high cost the need to be fungible and have a flexibility of products. This is why we have always, in the last few con calls, stressed that this is a platform investment and not a product investment. So we have, several products that we will be looking at producing. What permutation and combination depends on market forces. So right now we don't feel that there is spare capacity to consider CRAMS opportunities. But as and when if it comes, it will only be a modular increase in investment. So we will not be averse to it, but it is not the company's go-to strategy.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vivek Chadda, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And good afternoon to the whole management of Deepak Nitrite. So my question is on the capex plan which we have announced of 300 crore rupees. So what kind of products we are going to target it?
I feel like we've responded to this several times. Just for the sake of brevity, we're investing into products that go into life sciences as intermediates. The focus is on products that will target the pharma and agro spaces, we are adding 2 new platforms to our existing group of platforms, which are fluorination and photochlorination. Our existing group of platforms is nitration, diazotation, reduction, coupling, blah, 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 blah. So these are 2 processes that we are adding to that stable. And this 300 odd crores of investment will be made at the new site that we have acquired in Dahej under the name Deepak Cleantech, which is a wholly owned subsidiary. So I hope this summarizes all of your questions on this regard.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Riddhi from Redam Securities. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the follow-up opportunity, sir. My question is referencing that 35% of our phenol production is captively used, and with the new investment coming in for phenol and acetone derivatives, are we looking to debottleneck the existing capacities or also building upon the base phenol for phenol?
The goal is to consume 35%. Today we are not. All the phenol that we manufacture is sold in merchant sales. The goal moving forward is to have the internal capability to consume up to 35% of what we produce. That does not mean that we will not look at debottlenecking and adding as well, which we will. But as a priority, we have chosen to go downstream. Soon, hopefully, we will also take the opportunity to announce debottlenecking initiatives.
And we are already running at 100, last year it was 115%, first quarter 110%. So that continues, additional production, additional volumes.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ravi, an individual investor. Please go ahead. Mr. Ravi, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead with your question. Mr. Ravi, I would request you to unmute yourself if muted from the handset. There's no response from the line of the current participant. The next question is from the line of Parvez Alam. Please go ahead. The line for the current participant got disconnected. I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Thank you all for taking out time to join us on this earnings conference call. I hope we have adequately answered all your questions. In case you have any further questions, please connect with our IR team, Mr. Somsekhar Nanda. Have a safe time and please follow the COVID appropriate behavior. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and once again appreciate investor confidence in Deepak.
Thank you. On behalf of IIFL Securities Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.
Thank you.